Hey all, here at OS Reviews. Today we're taking a quick look at the Edifier W320TNs. These are TWS wireless buds which are relatively fully stacked with functionality, including high-res audio certification since they have the LDAC codec. So on most Android smartphones you get up to 3 times more details being transmitted via Bluetooth. They're using relatively large 13mm drivers. They have adaptive active noise cancellation that gets a little bit higher intensity depending on your surroundings, if it's louder, slightly more subtle, if it's more quiet. They also feature Google's Fast Pair technology, so it's able to connect to your Google account, meaning if you're switching between phones and computers, it should also seamlessly pair on other devices that you're logged into. Also, when you're removing the buds, the music will automatically play and pause, and they also have touch controls in the sides to trigger a command like play pause, as well as skip tracks, which are completely customizable via the companion app. The buds will last for around 5.5 hours of continuous music listening before needing to be topped up, and with the case you get a combined total of around 27 hours, which I would say is around average. It's not the longest battery life that we've seen necessarily, but that could be due to the larger drivers that they have inside. Again, at 13mm, that should supposedly pack better bass, but as a result it also consumes a little bit more power. Of course, like most buds on the market, these will also be fully sweat and rain resistant, so you can wear it outdoors and should still survive. Now, by the way, with ANC turned on, the continuous battery life draws a little bit closer to 3.5 hours compared to 5.5 with it turned off. That being said, it does support fast charging, so just 10 minutes in the battery case will provide you up to an hour of continuous listening. Now, it comes in 2 colors, black and white options, and the only functionality from a hardware perspective that is perhaps missing on these would be Qi wireless charging for the battery case. But again, everything else is pretty much fully stacked. So inside here we have the kind of ivory colored TWS buds themselves, and extra accessories in the case include just a USB Type-C charging cable, as well as just a quick user guide. Battery case is constructed out of a polycarbonate plastic, which does attract a little bit of smudges, but overall feels quite good in terms of build. We have just a Type-C port on the very bottom, Edifier logo etched onto the metal hinge, as well as a reset button and an indication light on the top that will glow green or red depending on the battery status. Otherwise, the sizing is very compact, making it easy to slide into pockets when you're taking it on the road. They're quite comparable, in fact, to many other pairs that we have seen recently, and they're held into place magnetically. If we take a closer look at the actual buds, again, they have this stem design reminiscent of the original AirPods. It's not a bad thing though, since the overall wearing experience is indeed comfortable and lightweight. It's contributed by the polycarbonate build and the fact that, again, there isn't really a silicone tip that exerts too much pressure when you're wearing them, so it feels quite loose. Although they're not quite as tight as a sports design pair of buds when it comes to vigorous exercise, for light movement, walking and jogging around, they still stayed in place without too many problems. Now, perhaps the most distinctive part about the design is that split mesh houses the drivers underneath, a pretty large covering for the grills, and then we have the IR sensors that detect if you're wearing them or not, as well as the slight grooves on the edges, again reminiscent of the AirPods, that will detect if you're actually tapping on this for controlling things like music, volume, so on and so forth. Pairing the buds are extremely simple. Just turn on Bluetooth settings and you get a pop-up notification from Google allowing you to connect to these buds and pair it with your Google account. So setup is as simple as on Apple products with AirPods. It's almost seamless in that integration with the Fast Pair protocol. Otherwise, you can tap on Find My Device to also track the location of these buds, and you'll be able to know its last known spot via your phone's GPS. So it will be connected by Bluetooth, and it gets that location data from the phone as a rough estimate. You can also find your device, allowing you to ring an alarm on the left and the right sides to find the buds. So this is all built into the default Android operating system and not even the third-party Edifier app, so integration is quite good. Now, if we do jump into their app, by the way, once you are paired via Bluetooth, you'll be able to take a look at the battery percentage remaining on the left, right side, and also the case, and the high-res audio function, by the way, is turned off by default to save on some power as well as decrease the latency. However, you can go into LDAC settings and turn that on. Increasing the sampling rate will obviously transfer more data over, increasing the resolution of your music. Otherwise, down below, we have the ability to change things like the active noise cancellation, which is surprisingly effective, but adaptive ANC is the only mode that we have here by default. There isn't really a way to manually toggle between low, medium, and high ANC intensity, party, for instance. But again, using the built-in algorithms, it's always listening to your surroundings and adjusting itself. Generally speaking, fan noises as well as engine sounds from a car, train, or plane get repressed really well, and you're able to listen to music in more peace, don't have to turn up the volume quite as high. That was really surprising for me, considering that these are one of the only pairs of ANC buds that I've seen which adopts this open type design, which doesn't use a larger silicon tip, since a silicon mesh typically gets you even more snug fit and noise isolation. For the ambient mode, you do have the ability to turn on the intensity higher or lower, and this mode is for magnifying the noise with the microphone, so you don't have to remove the buds if you're having a conversation or walking down a busy street to be aware of what's happening around you. Though, to be completely honest, the open type design already lends itself quite well for some transparency, even if you don't have the mode here turned on, similar to on the regular AirPods. But you have this function that further takes it up another level. Of course, you can turn everything off in the third mode. If you swipe over onto the side, it goes into some custom EQ controls. By default, there's a classic one tuned by Edifier, but you can also turn that into a pop sound, classical, or a rock sound, and they do make a subtle difference on the overall sound signature and the tracks that you're listening to. With that being said, on the default Edifier Connect app, you won't find, say, a custom hearing test mode that is personalized just to your own audio profile. The final tab here allows you to turn on or off a separate low latency mode if you're doing things like gaming, and that will work well also for watching videos. Furthermore, on this app, you can also take a look at playing back some soothing nature sounds to help you fall asleep, as well as if you're meditating, for example, to calm you down. There's certain playlists that are on board for white noise and sounds. Finally, tapping on the gear icon allows you to customize what the double tap as well as triple tap will correlate to. So you can have that in addition to a long hold for changing things like volume, going into the gaming mode, low latency, skipping tracks, so on and so forth. Aside from this, the wearing detection sensor can also be turned on and off, as well as audio prompts. You can also go into a shutdown timer to turn off the buds completely after X minutes of inactivity. Edifier also provides an optional widget that you can pop onto the home screen to quickly toggle through some of the EQ settings, as well as turn on and off ANC and the gaming mode, which is rather convenient. You can also do this by the drag down notification shade and expanding on this notification for some of those similar shortcuts. It's nothing that we haven't seen before on other recent pairs of Edifier headphones, but still a pretty convenient way of controlling those that I do like about their software at the moment. Moving into audio quality and performance, I was generally impressed with the W320TNs. That is to say, the large driver is very dynamic sounding. You get plenty of bass response when it comes to low frequency notes like drum beats. They are quite precise, but also very satisfying, giving you a nice thump in the background. So great for genres like pop, as well as EDM. Bass heads will be satisfied, although it's not going to be overpowering or too messy either, which is great. Mids and trebles also are generally pleasant with sufficient detail, lively, and vibrant whenever you start listening to music on these. They're super easy to get sucked into the sound and have virtually no distortion when it comes to background static. There is no hissing or popping of any kind, so completely clean aside from the audio being transmitted even as you're playing and pausing the sound. So very good audio reproduction. That being said, if we had to be hypercritical, trebles are an area where on even more deluxe and expensive pairs of headphones, perhaps with dual drivers or triple drivers, again, these are single driver buds at the end of the day, can perhaps squeeze out even more detail. I do have to point out though that LDAC is an audio codec that is only compatible with Android phones. It's not really an issue with these specific models, but just something to keep in mind. That means if you're an iOS user, you may not necessarily get the full benefit out of them. So these are going to serve best if you are an Android ecosystem user. So that is more or less it as far as our quick hands-on review of the Edifier W320TNs. Overall, they're a super comfortable pair of buds, which are surprising because this type of open design typically is not going to have active noise cancellation, and yet the adaptive ANC on here is extremely strong and convincing. At the same time, they're very comfortable, pack dynamic sounding drivers, which are excellent for the majority of pop tracks that you're listening to, and have seamless connectivity if you are an Android user with Google Fast Pair and dual pairing options as well. So they're pretty fully stacked when it comes to functionality, It's a very competitive offering from Edifier, I have to admit, for a pair that are just slightly below their current generation flagships, which are the NeoBud series. Still, I think that these are going to be an excellent, again, option if you value something that is all around very well performing and just want something a little bit more compact to take when on the road, plus with excellent comfort. You can check out more details if interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the W320TNs from Edifier.